Hey everybody, welcome to Fight News Now Extra. We examine the landscape of mixed martial arts. Robin Black will join me to weigh in on some of the most relevant topics in the sport. In the news today, a former champion will be out of action for most of the year. UFC 186 gets another fight added to an already solid card, and DC has an opponent in mind that could fast-track him to a rematch with Jon Jones. Former UFC and WEC bantamweight champion Dominick Cruz underwent a successful surgery last week to repair a damaged ACL. The 29-year-old will spend the majority of 2015 in rehab, but is hopeful for a return to the cage before the year's end. The Dominator looked dominant in his first fight in almost 3 years when he dispatched durable Japanese fighter Takeya Mizugaki last September. UFC 186, which is set to take place at Bell Center in Montreal on April 25th, will now feature a welterweight bout between TriStar representative Nordine Taleb and 11-1 Brazilian fighter Claudio da Silva. The card will be headlined by a rematch for the bantamweight title as champion TJ Dillashaw takes on Renan Barão. The co-feature pits Rory MacDonald against ATT's Hector Lombard, and Patrick Cote faces the ultra-experienced Joe Riggs. And finally, top-ranked Daniel Cormier likes the idea of a potential showdown with Alexander Gustafsson. DC believes that a win over the Mauler could be the golden ticket to a potential rematch with his nemesis Jon Jones. It is also a fight that makes sense from the fan standpoint. And all the UFC action starts at 7 p.m. this coming weekend, January 31st. UFC Fight Pass will feature Diego Brandao taking on Jimmy Hedis. And then we move over to TSN at 8 p.m. Eastern. Miesha Tate battles Olympian Sarah McMahon. And then all the main card action on the pay-per-view starts at 10 p.m. The former middleweight champion Anderson Silva makes his return to the octagon as he battles the always entertaining Nick Diaz. Happy to be joined by Mr. Robin Black. And Robin, we got to talk about Dominick Cruz. Going to be out most of 2015, which is a travesty because, you know, you talk to a lot of martial artists. They believe he is one of the best in the business, has set the tone for not just the smaller weight guys, 135 pounds. We saw TJ Dillashaw utilizing his movement. But we've also seen the heavyweights like Travis Brown utilize his movement as well. Tell us, you know, what Dominick Cruz means to the sport of mixed martial arts.
This guy's good. You know, he's very good. He's very special. And, you know, the sport is still young enough that there is room for innovation. And a lot of people are innovating. But it's almost like, you know, watching somebody play tennis and it's just different. They just play it different than everyone else. And he's really fun to watch. He's very special. But he's also a very, very good analyst. And, you know, we do this, so we're kind of judgmental. If you're a baker, you can be a dick sometimes. You'll eat somebody else's cake, and you're like, oh, man, this cake's no good. It's too much sugar. You know, people get like that. And I watch this guy analyze. I watch this guy talk on television, and I like watching him. He's very good. He's very fun. So the guy's good. He's got a career outside of it. He's very good at what he's doing. He looks good. He's getting more comfortable. So he's taken care of. But the guy likes fighting. This is how he defines himself. This is who he is. This is who he's been for years of his life. It's what he's dedicated his life to. I'm sure he'll dedicate his life to enjoying wearing a suit and a pair of glasses and sitting around talking about fighting. That's a fun gig. But he wants to fight. So he's going to have to go through another surgery, another rehab. You see it in him. The guy wants to do it badly. So, you know, and good on him. Go do it, Dominick Cruz. You're one of the best.
But one of the good things about martial arts is, yes, you know, there are fighters out there that want to compete at the highest level. We've heard George St. Pierre for years say, you know, the goal is to be considered the pound-for-pound best. Will we ever prove that? Probably not, because it doesn't really make sense.
Made up.
It's all made up, exactly. Well, what is true is that George St. Pierre doesn't have to compete. He can still learn the truths about martial arts. He can go study capoeira, and he can go study judo, and he can study all the different martial arts that the world has to offer. And Dominick Cruz can do the same thing. It will help him become a better analyst. And of course, you know, we've seen a lot of fighters, ex-fighters, become good coaches. Maybe Dominick Cruz would be one of those guys.
Maybe. When we went to Montreal, we talked to George. We did one of those fightographies on Fight Pass. Check it out. We did it here at Fight Network for them. And it was really fun. It was great to see George. George had a little belly for the first time ever. I mean, we've seen this guy around for 7, 8, 9 years. Never seen that before. And he seemed really happy. He was really relaxed. He was having a good time. You know, I talked to him, hey, you want to go do maybe some Metamoris or something? I just don't really feel like competing right now. You can see that. The guy has decided he's experienced life without competition, and at least right now, tastes pretty good. Dominick Cruz, I just think the guy still wants it. When you go through surgery, rehab, re-injury, surgery, rehab, did you see how much that guy, how good he looked in that fight back?
Yeah.
And how much hard he celebrated, how excited he was walking down that tube? You don't get that sitting at a desk wearing a suit on television. It's fun. It's really cool. You get to go, like you said, go and learn the truths about that thing you love. But that, walking out of that tunnel, fighting that man and celebrating, that looked like that was him at his very best.
We always saw Erica Del Fiero in the corner of Dominick Cruz every time he steps inside of the cage. We also saw him in the corner of Alexander Gustafsson. Daniel Cormier says, you know what, this fight makes sense, and it absolutely does make sense. Sure, you know, even if you're not talking about the title picture and where Gustafsson is now in the rankings or where DC is in the rankings, just the idea of this matchup, because, you know, you go back and you look what happened in that fight with Gustafsson and Anthony Johnson. Yes, Anthony Johnson looked good, but it appeared to be a clash of heads that led to the demise of Gustafsson, and I don't anticipate if they were to fight again, it would transpire that way. But this cool idea of Cormier ready to take on all comers, considering the fact that he's in his mid-30s, he doesn't have the time. He's got to make all his money. He's got to get the biggest fights he could possibly get right now.
Yeah, hey, it's part of the same conversation. You see that guy sitting at a desk talking about fighting? Awesome. He's damn good, too. Dan Cormier is fun to watch on television. He's good at that gig, too. And it's a cool gig. Everybody watching at home is like, I'd like to talk about football on TV for money. That would be a great gig. But this guy wants to fight men in a cage. That's what motivates him in life. It's the same deal. And it's really cool to see. Like you said, it's one thing, you know, if you're a millionaire, if you're already successful, and you still want to fight, that is wild. And it is cool, and it's who they are.
Rashad Evans says an uppercut will stop John Jones. Anthony Rumble Johnson definitely has the power. That is it for us. Don't go anywhere. More Fight News Now Extra is still coming at you.